everybody, I hope you guys are enjoying the beautiful fall weather. It is gorgeous up here in northern Canada. It's starting to cool off, which is something that I really like. Fall is my favorite time of year. Today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Well, I guess it's the same and different all at the same time. For the last year or so, I've been getting the Potomac Beads subscription box. I haven't done an actual video on any of those boxes that I've created. Since I'm ahead of the game, I thought I'd show you some of the stuff that I've created with one of these boxes, recent boxes. I actually don't remember which box this is. It's only a couple months old, but it has been sitting around waiting for me to get to it. So I thought I'd get to it, and I thought I'd show you everything that I made in this box, what's in this box, just a quick overall view of what actually comes in this box, and some mini tutorials. So without further ado, let's get into this video. What I like about Potomac Beads subscription box is that they come with 3 patterns. So 2 patterns comes with beads and how to make the jewelry. And then they have 1 extra pattern, which you get, no beads, but I mean, it's for your own collection if you want to make something different. Like Bargain Bead Box, they give you a list of everything that's in here. And then a whole bunch of cute beads for your stash for future projects. And they have really cute, interesting looking beads for any project that you might want to make. And what I like is the box is nice. They close magnetically. So you can take your projects with you if you want, if you're traveling or whatever. But I really like these boxes. They stack really nice. And then what I do is I put here what type of beads are in them. So yeah. All right, let's get to the jewelry. When I first saw these coffee bean beads, I knew instantly that it was going to have to be some kind of a necklace like this. These are really cute, and the colors are gorgeous on these. So I used the coffee bean beads. These are 8 by 11 millimeter beads. I used the crystal round beads in apricot, 2 millimeters, and you'll see them on either side of the coffee bean beads, as well as just above these crystal beads right here, so right there. I used the drop duos in aluminum silver. These are 3 by 6 millimeter, and that's these ones here. The crystal disco balls in golden shadow, and these ones are 8 millimeters, so these ones here. Crystal teardrop beads in smoky topaz, 6 by 8 millimeter, that's these ones here. And I used my own 11O seed beads in antique copper to put that all together. And these antique coppers matched really well with the coffee bean beads. And I used my Czech bugle beads, 1 by 4 millimeter, these ones here, and I got those from BeadFX. So I'm going to give you a little mini tutorial on how I actually put this together. In the first frame, you can see how I put the beads on the thread. I put the crystal round bead, the apricot 2 millimeter first, then the coffee bean bead, then another 2 millimeter crystal bead, followed by 2 of the drop duos, and then the crystal bead, the coffee bean, the crystal bead, and the 2 drop duos. Then when I got to the other end, I ended with the coffee bean and then the crystals. So there's the little tiny crystals on either side. And as you can see, on either end is with the crystal, with the 2 millimeter crystal beads. On this particular piece, I used 19 of the coffee bean beads to make up the length of my necklace. You can use more or less, but you need to have an odd number of beads done. You can see I used one 11O seed bead. I used just a brass colored seed bead to put at the end of that, the 11O. Then I came back down around the crystal, the bean, the crystal, and 2 of the drop duos, and then took my thread and then went back the other way through the bottom hole of the second super duo. And in the frame you can see now I'm just waiting to do my next row. So add on another drop duo. Did I see super duo before? I might have said super duo. Then you put on your drop duo through the top hole and then go through the next drop duo closest to the right, as you can see here, and pull that through. Then you go back around the 2 top holes of the drop duos, as you can see in this frame, and then continue on like that. So you go through the crystal, the bean, the crystal, 2 drop duos, then go back down around, add your next drop duo with the top hole, and so on and so forth. And then you just go across like that until you've got 3 drop duos on each of those sets. And as I get to the end of the other side there, I added my 11/0 seed bead in brass and then come back around through the first crystal and the coffee bean bead. Now it's time to add some bugle beads, as you can see here. So when you come back around, as you can see in this frame, I went through the first hole of the first drop duo and then down through the last hole of the second drop duo, as you can see in here. And then I added 1 bugle bead, 1 2mm crystal, and 1 bugle bead, and went through the next bottom hole of the next drop duo. Then go through the bottom hole of the next drop duo, and as you can see here, you just continue that until you get to the other side. And then when you get to the other side, you go down through, as you can see, the thread is coming out of the bottom part, the bottom hole of the last drop duo. You pull your thread through the top hole of that same drop duo to head back in the other direction. And in this frame, I went through the bottom with my needle and thread. I went through the top hole of the bottom drop duo, and then through the bottom hole back the other way of that same drop duo. Now I'm going to add some of my 11/0 seed beads in antique copper. Put 3 11/0 seed beads and 1 bugle bead on your thread, and then go through the first crystal between the 2 bugle beads. Then add a bugle bead and then 3 11/0s and go through the bottom hole of the next drop duo. And this is what it should look like. And then continue across exactly the same way. And when you get to the last part, you're going to have 3 11/0s on the bottom part of the drop duo. Just pull your thread around, come through the top of that same drop duo and the bottom of the next one, and then down through your 2 bugle beads. Your bugle bead, your 2mm crystal bead, and your bugle bead, and you should be sitting at the right hand side of that cluster of crystal and bugle bead. And then you put 1 bugle bead, 1 crystal teardrop bead in smoky topaz, and then 1 11/0 seed bead. Your 11/0 seed bead should sit tight on the crystal teardrop bead. Add another bugle bead and go through the next bugle bead on the next sequence of beads. And you just keep going across, and this is what you should have. This is pretty much what it should look like. When you get to the end here, you're going to be sitting right here. What I did was I just took my thread, went around, came back down here, and then was on this side of this 2mm crystal. So this side here. So I went through this bugle bead, and this is where my thread was waiting for me to add the next sequence of beads here. So then I added the crystal disco balls. These are in golden shadow. They're 8mm bead, and another 11/0 seed beads. Now the reason I add the 11/0 seed beads at the bottom is just to hold the beads in place. And actually it looks really pretty too. So I'm coming out the right hand side of that 2mm crystal. You add your disco ball, your 11/0 seed bead, come back around, missing the 11/0 seed bead and coming back up through the disco ball. And at this point, you just make your way across to the next 2mm crystal bead. And you can go down if you want through the 11/0s. You can go up through the drop duos. The choice is yours. I would suggest going down through the 11/0s because through the drop duos, you've probably already pulled your thread through that a couple of times. So I actually went down the bugle. So on the other side of the 2mm bead, I went down that bugle, up through the 3 11/0s, through the bottom hole of the drop duo, down the 3 11/0s, and back up that 1 bugle to end up on the right hand side of the next crystal. And you do that all the way across until you are done, and then you just tie off. Here I just added my half round wire to the last 11/0 bead and just made my loop as I usually do, twirled it around, pressed it in, and then just added my clasps. I wanted to use the lobster claw clasps since I have quite a few of them with this particular necklace, and I wanted to make sure that it was very dainty and small. Now on this other side I did the same thing, and I used their jump rings. So they gave us 5mm jump rings in the box, so I used that. And the nice thing about this whole setup here is you can add more jump rings to this piece here to make it longer if you want. So here they give us a large leaf bead. I'm not sure what size this is. It didn't say what size it was in here. But they give us so you can see, you know, you can see compared to my finger how big it is there. I do like this large leaf bead, but I didn't want to just leave it with a simple bail. I never do. So I took out of my stash my own flower toggle clasp. This is a 24mm toggle clasp with the end piece, and this one here I got from Eureka Crystal Beads. I'll leave a link in the description area. They still have lots of them. They're very beautiful, and it matched with this whole antique copper findings that they had sent. I put my own 11/0 seed beads to make the initial bail, so 4 on this side and then 4 on the back side as well. And then just put the thread through the flower part of the toggle clasps and just went around probably about 4 times. You don't want to go any more than that, because even the 11/0 seed beads, you'll have a hard time getting the thread through after about 4 times. I think I used 6-pound fire line in here. And then just tied it off like I normally do. Added 2 of the jump rings that they had given us and put it on the other side, and then my own chain. Now on this side here, I used the other part of the toggle clasp and one of my own jump ring. Now I got this from a local bead shop. This is a 12mm jump ring. It's quite big and very, very sturdy. So I used that to finish off because I wanted this part of the toggle clasp as part of the bail for this leaf bead. So I used that and the 12mm jump ring to create the toggle clasp to close it. And then I used rolla beads. I just find it's really a nice touch to put something on the back, because a lot of times, like when I wear my necklaces, they will, you know, this part here will actually come and sit around here. So I mean, if you've got this pretty little decoration, it doesn't look quite so bad when it does that. So I used the 2-inch eye pins. So they had given 2-inch eye pins in the box, and that fits into this really small looped chain very well. Added the rolla bead, which you can get from Eureka Crystal Beads, you can get from Bead FX. I got these at Michael's in a whole set. So as you can see, I looped it around the top a little bit differently. So I wanted to cover the top of the rolla bead. I think that's just a really nice touch. This one actually worked out a little bit better. And I think that looks really pretty. A very nice touch to the whole piece. Sometimes these little touches that you put on to a piece just makes a whole bit of difference if you're trying to sell it, or, you know, even if you're giving it away for Christmas or something like that, birthday. You know, these little touches just make a whole big difference. And to me, this makes a big difference. I really like the way that it turned out. So this is the bracelet I made with the check tulip flowers. So these came in the box, the check tulip flowers. These are 8x11mm. I used the crystal round beads. That is these ones here, again on each side of the coffee bean beads. I used the crystal disco balls, these ones here, and rolla beads. And I used the eye pins, the antique copper in 2-inch. So you put the eye pin through the tulip bead, as you can see here in the photo. I bend it back in the opposite direction of the loop because you want the loops to be opposite each other. That way they sit better on the bracelet. So as you can see in this video here, I show you that. Then you loop it around your round nose pliers. I looped it around the smallest part of my round nose pliers and then pulled it around to make a loop once or twice, doesn't matter. I think I did twice, as you can see in here. And there's the linked together tulip beads. And then I did the same exact thing here. So I used the pins to go through here, added my beads that I wanted, so that would have been the 2mm crystal bead, the coffee bean bead, and the 2mm crystal bead, and did a loop on the opposite direction. So this one is sitting one way, this one is sitting the opposite way, and looped it around a couple times, cut off the end piece, and then just pressed it into itself with a pair of pliers. Then I used the disco beads and one Rolo bead. Here, all I had left was these 3 coffee bean beads, so it worked out really nice. And then my really big 12mm jump rings to put them all together. I used the jump rings that they had given us, and I just added what I needed to make the bracelet fit myself. You can add more or less. And then I used my own clasps. These ones came from, I think they came from the bargain bead box. I had some left over. And you can add as many jump rings as you want to make it fit the way that you like it. And you can even add some beads in here with some of the leftover eye pins if you want, just to make it more of a charm bracelet. And I really wanted a pair of earrings to match everything that I made here. So I used my bugle beads and the crystal round beads in apricot, the 2mm, my Rolla beads, and the teardrop beads in smoky topaz. These are 6x8mm. And of course I put everything together with the 2-inch eye pins and antique copper. Put everything together, and by the time I got to this part here, there wasn't a lot left to wrap around, but these eye pins are very tough, very, very tough wire. Looped it around, cut it off, and it just made it into a single loop on the top there. And then used my own ear wires to pull everything together. Believe it or not, I only had 6 of the duo drop beads left, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with these. I wanted to do something so that I could wear a pair of earrings with the first necklace that I had made. And they had given us crimp tube beads in the subscription that month. So what I did was I used the 2-inch eye pins. I used 2. And because these are 2-hole bead, I just put them across the opposite direction of each other with the crimp beads in between. And then at the top, I curled them around my pliers, pulled them around, and made a loop at the top to put everything together. And then used a jump ring here to go through the 2 loops on the eye pins, and then used another eye pin to add the disco ball bead and the small 2mm crystal. Looped it around there and looped it around there and cut it off as I always do. And then make a very unique, interesting looking earring. And then I used my own ear wires to put it all together. So I hope you enjoyed the video and the mini tutorial. I hope you go and check out the Potomac Beads subscription boxes and their website for all the beads and everything that they have. I've really enjoyed working with this box, so yeah, go check it out. Don't forget to like this video. If you did like this video, subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. Helps out this channel quite a bit if you do all that. I'm gonna get out of here, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.